What's up, musicologists? Welcome to Amari Music Talk. I'm Richard Cole. If you're a longtime listener, welcome. If you are new to the channel, welcome also. Today, I want to talk about the documentary Sly Lives, The Burden of Black Genius. I've watched it twice and got a lot of good things to say about it. Maybe if you kind of wondering, I don't know if you guys are longtime Sly and the Family Stone fans like myself. If you know a lot about his story, you'll probably still find this satisfying. If you're brand new or if you're just curious as to, what kind of genius he was and what happened, then definitely this is the documentary for you as well. Um, like I said, lots to unpack. So let's go ahead, dive in and get started. Like I said, I watched it twice, and for me, it was enjoyable. Overall, had a great time with it. Um, I've got a couple of biographies, especially the recent one, which is an autobiography. So you get to hear Sly's story in his own words. But old magazine articles, following the career. I've got all the CDs. I've got a few vinyl. But for Questlove to take the direction that he took with this, Questlove is the director of this. I enjoyed Summer of Soul, that documentary. I think he knocked it out of the park. With Sly Lives, I think he did a great job with this one as well. The difference being Summer of Soul to me was a complete documentary, meaning there was a narrative, beginning, middle to end. It was consistent. What he wanted to focus on in that documentary, I think he accomplished. Sly Lives, um, like I said, he did a great job with it. However, if you're going in looking for the sort of complete documentary experience, um, this will be a little different. It hits a little different because it's not, to me, a bona fide documentary. And even in some of the interviews long before the release, he said in so many words that this is like a character study. It's in the title, The Burden of Black Genius. And I think that's the narrative. And, if you've seen previous episodes of Amari Music Talk, where I've talked endlessly about the Prince documentary for Netflix that is now not going to happen, and a lot of the flaws that led up to its cancellation, meaning that as a director of a documentary, you have to have a passion for your subject, regardless of what the narrative is. If this is the narrative you want to tell, then you have to have complete passion and at least a basic knowledge, or if you're doing it on an artist, you got to be a fan of that artist. And with Sly Lives, to me, this is where Questlove succeeds with it. But like I said, it's not a documentary in the way that you're thinking. You do get a big, huge chunk of Sly's story, his beginnings. In places, it's kind of like, hit, this point, this point, this point, this point. But for the narrative that he's trying to tell, I think that works. So if you're a longtime fan, maybe that might be a little frustration because there are certain segments where, man, I wish they would have gone deeper in that direction. Or with this anecdote, I wish there was more in that direction. But if it was really a telling of his life, beginning, middle, end, then I think we would have gotten some of that. But what this documentary is, it's an exploration. Like I said, it's a character study, because Sly Stone is that first real major superstar, um, the template for what Michael Jackson was to become, what Prince became, and the first to get to that level, and then things start to unravel. And I mean, and this is, the unraveling began, say, long before Elvis's downfall, and he was spiraling for years, unbeknownst to a lot of fans as well. But you have at least Sly is still with us. So that's the other thing. So there's not like an end to it. There is a happy, because he is still here. You do get the story in his own words. But again, it's not where you see him now telling that story. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But, it's good to know that he's been clean for several years. It's good to know that he still works, or he's never really stopped working on music. But I think part of that burden of Black genius, I know, especially during the 90s, because he reached such a height that the expectations, the pressure would be too much, because we're always going to compare it with the hits, the superstar, at his peak. We're always going to compare it to that. And I think that's an unfair comparison. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack with this. But again, the narrative, it's about the unraveling. How did such a prolific genius get to the point to where he had to struggle for decades, to where, the media scrutiny, following him for every arrest, for every possession, for every, dodging child support, things like that. There was always the media. And yes, and not only, the white mainstream media, Jet Magazine was also complicit with this too. Because I remember as a kid, where I remember seeing the greatest hits album in almost every household. There's a riot going on. I remember when Family Affair was heavily on the radio when I was like 5 or 6, heavily on the radio. Skip some years ahead. Yeah, you see him on television here and there, whether performing or as a guest on Mike Douglas. I remember those days. But then, like I said, not a lot of the radio play that I was hearing when I was 4, 5, 6 years old. Skip to a track like Loose Booty. That track is like, oh, yeah, Sly and the Family Stone. Okay, yeah. And then, it kind of fizzles out, because now you've got Stevie Wonder on this ascension, influenced by Sly, the Jackson 5. You've got Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind, and Fire, the Ohio Players. You've got all these different groups. They're coming up based on that foundation that Sly built. And then, as the 70s and the 80s go on, like I said, every time you see him in the paper now, it's not because of a concert. It's not because where you would think they would focus on the new album. But again, it's this arrest, that arrest, caught for possession of this. And like I said, this is one of the first of our Black superstars that to reach, I mean, levels that no entertainer had gone before. To see that sabotage, some of it was self-sabotage. And that's what this documentary tries to explore. And I think the attempt to get to the root of self-sabotage, I think that falls apart in this documentary. I think it illustrates the pattern of Sly's trajectory, say past 1974. But again, because this documentary attempts to do a character study as opposed to the study, I mean, it studies the human being. You get the sense of the human being, but it's not like I said, if you were watching a documentary on Elton John or a documentary on any one of the Beatles together or separate. It's not that where you get the totality of the person's life and you get to explore because you're exploring the life. You get to kind of play with some of, or not play with, but kind of explore some of the anecdotes, some of the more, some of the highlights more, or you get the highlights, but then there's more of the backstory behind it, which you don't get. So again, it's not a bad documentary. I enjoyed it, and like I said, I think it's produced well. Um, I enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed Summer of Soul. So, I'm definitely looking forward to Questlove's next documentaries. But like I said, to me, those were some of the kind of things that it didn't take me out of the documentary, but after the sort of euphoria, because yeah, like I said, you get to explore that life. And for those, like I said, that are new to Sly and the Family Stone, for the casual fan, for the newbie, this is an excellent point to start. But again, for the deep cut, some of the things you'll enjoy differently. What I really enjoy, because most documentaries, you kind of have these sort of talking heads, and it's like, well, who is this person? They weren't even there. Okay, granted, they were alive during the time, but they weren't even, how can they comment on this, that, and the other? But what I love about this one is, again, it's because Sly has had a major influence on many generations. We already named the Kool and the Gang, Stevie Wonder, um, the Ohio Players. We've seen that direct influence. But then you skip to the next generation, which is hip hop, and the number of samples from most of Sly's career, which while he's struggling to come out with an album or promote an album or struggling to, overcome some struggles to rebuild that career, then hip hop on the flip side had given him a second lease on life. So you get that. And what I enjoy about that is the choice of the talking heads in this one, because either, where you have a Jam and Lewis, you have D'Angelo, you've got Q-Tip, again, direct. But you also have people that knew Sly, that worked with Sly, that hung out with Sly, like Shaka Khan, George Clinton. Um, you get Larry Graham in there. And, for the deep cuts, usually whenever there's a biography done about Sly and the Family Stone or Sly Stone, um, it always focuses on the drama. And they, to me, that's one of the things. It may have been downplayed. It kind of gives the appearance that the riff was downplayed. We know Larry Graham, we know, where his mindset is, and he's not either wanting to go deep, into that. But I think he gave a very diplomatic explanation on why he left Sly and the Family Stone. And yeah, I'll take that at face value, because nobody knows what went down but him and Sly, and some of the other people involved and what their opinions on the matter would be. So, but it's good that he was there to participate in that. You've had quite a number of the Family Stone that were able to be in this documentary. It's good to see. I don't know how long they had been working on this documentary, but it was good to see Cynthia Robinson, rest in peace, Cynthia Robinson. So it was good to see those talking heads, and again with the Jam and the Lewis and the Q-Tips and the D'Angelos to explain, what it was all about. Nile Rodgers, basically the majority of my musical heroes, again, that have had either direct contact with Sly or was able to have that influence and have that influence explained in a way that is better than some cat that's a music teacher or something that tries to intellectualize the funk or whatever, music in general. So it was good to have real actual talking heads. So that was a major plus. And another thing that keeps me watching this again and again and again. Uh, what else? I mean, at the center of everything too, it's the music. The music, the clips. Again, diehards, you've probably seen a bunch of these clips. I've seen a bunch of the clips. Whether it was the Dick Cavett show, I've seen the entire episode of that before. The clip Ed Sullivan, I've seen that performance before. There's a few others that I wasn't familiar with, and it was good to see fresh footage. The music in whether it was talking about certain albums or songs at the time, it was nice to hear these alternate mixes. It was nice to hear some of the early takes in this documentary. And it's something that as I was watching it, I'm like, why don't we have Sly and the Family Stone box sets the way that we get Beatles box sets or the way that we get Prince box sets? I remember 2007 when the original albums were being remastered and reissued, and the selling point, they had like the bonus tracks. Some were like not alternate take. Well, some had alternate takes of certain songs. Some had the single mixes, the 45 mixes, which the earlier stuff up until There's a Riot Going On, those singles were in mono. So it was good to hear mono mixes of those singles. But as I'm listening to early takes of everyday people, as I'm listening to early takes of what else was in it? Dance to the Music. And it's like, that's what I want on to have been some of the bonus tracks on those reissued albums. Maybe this should open the door for that. But it was good to hear that. And again, if anything else, I think where this documentary succeeds, to me, I don't think it got to the cautionary tale part. I don't think it fully explained the self-sabotage part, because I think where Questlove's fascination with that self-sabotage, it's things like where you have Prince that has Purple Rain, but then he turns around and releases Around the World in a Day. That's a different type of self-sabotage, because it's like, yeah, Prince lost a lot of fans, but he still sold 3 million albums or 6 million. I forget what the number, I think 6 million on Around the World in a Day. That's still 6 million, and then subsequently after that, he was barely hitting double platinum until Batman soundtrack, and then like Diamonds and Pearls. In the eyes of the mainstream, those things brought him back. But I think with Sly, I think the better comparisons, sadly, are Elvis and Michael Jackson. But again, where I think Sly defies the odds is that he had those struggles, but he overcame those struggles. And whether he comes out with music again or not, at least I think spiritually, physically, he's better, and to me, that beats any comeback album, comeback tour, anything. Just the fact that the man can enjoy spending time with his kids, with his grandkids. To me, that's the ultimate success story. It's like, yeah, it would have been nice to keep some of the money, kept going or kept churning out hit records, but given everything he's been through, to survive it and to, like I said, be in a position to where, yeah, he can spend time with family, do that. That's the better move. But again, like I said, I think the heart of this was the music, um, just the impact that he had, the songs, you know. For me, I remember being in art school. This is art college. And there was this one year that this one semester where, I was used to having a little bit of success, but it just seemed like this semester, every class, I don't know what was going on. But long story short, I was off of my game for a minute. Just wasn't nothing going right. And decided to take like a couple of weeks to step back, you know, just didn't go to a couple of classes for a couple of weeks. And during this time, and it was right around the time of my birthday as well. So kind of as a treat to myself, I'm at the record store and there was Sly and the Family Stone's Greatest Hits, and it was on cassette. And I bought that cassette. And like virtually every song, because I hadn't heard these songs in years, at least not heard them as an adult. So now I'm really listening to the lyrics. I'm keying in on the lyrics to stand, in the end, you still be you when it's done all the things you set out to do. Stand, don't you know you are free, at least in your mind, if you want to be, you know, um, life, those songs. You can make it if you try. Everyday people, just the energy, not only just the music, but in those lyrics, it inspired me to say, oh, well, you know what? Look, I ain't trying to please the crowd on this one. Go back, I'm gonna do what I do and be me doing it. And if you don't like it, too bad. And yeah, and things started to turn around. It was like, got that magic back, got that energy back. And even like there was one class, even though it was kind of like a little hiccup, even that was still successful. So, the magnitude of those records, and then started to go back and get the rest of the albums, over time, mostly, CD and the remastered CDs, and then some of the vinyl. Um, but like I said, there's an energy. And again, where this documentary succeeds as well, there's where you have the dance to the music, the everyday people, the thank you for letting me be myself again, everybody is a star. You have those songs that were grabbing people. And I think those songs, that type of energy, those type of lyrics, given everything that's going on the face of the planet right now, we need that type of energy back. And then there's also, the sort of Black Power side of things. There's a ride going on, fresh, and just the themes and the lyrics. Again, those things that can inspire you, the things that can give you hope. Those albums, from A Whole New Thing to at least Fresh, hey, Crossword Puzzle from Small Talk is one of my favorites. Let's see, no, Crossword Puzzle from High on You. Let's see, Time for Living on Small Talk. Again, that type of energy, but definitely from A Whole New Thing to Fresh, that type of energy is what we need today. We need to revisit that. Um, all of it, Family Affair, um, Asphalt Jungle, Thanks for Talking to Me, Africa. We need, that type of energy is what's needed today. That type of inspiration is needed today in the face of everything that's going on right now, to give us that hope to navigate these changes that's going on. Wow, whatever it is, if you're working on your financial journey, your spiritual journey, or combination of the two, that type of energy, that type of motivation is what's needed right now. But, again, I highly recommend Sly Lives, The Burden of Black Genius. Like I said, it has its flaws in what it's trying to narrate, the narrative that it's trying to accomplish, but it is a definite, strong reminder of who Sly was. And I think that he deserves to be, not to me that he never fell off, and to a lot of diehard fans, he never fell off. But yeah, we need to keep his name in the same breath that I talk about Hendrix every week, that I talk about Prince every week, that, you know, whoever we think about, Cameo, Jackson 5, Parliament Funkadelic, The Time, all of those, we need to keep Sly at that forefront, just like we keep James at that forefront, to me, James, Sly, George Clinton, that's the Trinity. That's the funk Trinity. And, so I'm glad this documentary exists to keep that. I would probably recommend to watch that documentary, watch Sly Lives, and also pick up Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself again, the Sly Stone autobiography. And that is also where Questlove directed Sly Lives. Questlove's book publishing company is the publisher and distributor of that autobiography. Because there are other biographies you can read. There are articles you can probably try to look up. I know one of my favorites was an old Vibe magazine article from 1994 that took a deep dive, but there are plenty of biographies as well you can check out and kind of fill in a lot of the blanks that the documentary, like I said, certain anecdotes they didn't do a deep dive into, but you can find it in other books. There might be one or two other documentaries you can try to find as well. But to me, I think this is a relevant documentary. Watch it, buy Sly's book, and most importantly, if you don't have the albums, buy the albums. And I'll finish with this. There is an accompanying soundtrack titled Sly Lives. It is on your favorite streaming service. It has, for the most part, alternate mixes of some of his, key tracks and hits. And it's interesting. Some of them, it's off-putting because if you've lived with a lot of the songs for as many decades as I have, it's a little off-putting, but it is interesting because some it's kind of like where the song normally ends, it keeps going, or there's more emphasis on drums or certain instruments. Certain instruments are taken out of the mix. And it's different. It's something I'm probably going to keep listening to for a while just to kind of study it. It will be available in May in physical media, both CD and vinyl. I pre-ordered the CD. I don't think I'm going to get the vinyl, though. I probably prefer to sort of either add to the vinyl that I have, getting the original albums, or any albums that have been reissued on vinyl or remastered on vinyl. My quest will be in pursuit of the original albums in that format. And then I've got the original CDs to kick back and listen to as well. But definitely going to check out the Sly Live soundtrack on CD when it drops in May. So again, you can pre-order that on Amazon. But it's on your streaming service as well, and I recommend checking that out as well. You know, the Sly Party train is still going. But what did you think? Did you have a chance to watch it? Is it something you're planning on watching? It's on Hulu, so by all means, check it out there and leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're a Patreon or become a Patreon supporter, still have a special um, half off on your first month. The promo code is 9B404. So check that out. Speaking of Patreon, real quick, going to get around to doing a video for February before February ends. Haven't forgotten. I know there's been a lot of breaking news videos like this one. So check this out. Be on the lookout, become a supporter. Lots of fun stuff coming. And you have voting power as a Patreon supporter too. Submit your topic and you'll get a special episode that'll be a Patreon exclusive. So with that, go watch the Sly documentary. I'm probably going to go check it out. Maybe not right now, but sometime this week. May check it out again and listen to some more Sly this week. And until the next episode, create your day, create your life. Peace.